morning or evening, whenever you may be watching this. Today, I'll be speaking to you about Stoicism. Stoicism is the act of controlling your emotions and experiencing hardship without reacting. I have 17 exercises you can do to practice becoming a Stoic and finally take over your emotions and have more self-control. Starting with number 1, make a Stoic affirmation. You want to start your day with this affirmation. I do not and cannot control events outside me. I can only control how I respond to them. Repeat that affirmation a few times slowly. Look at your reflection in the mirror during this exercise. It's like a simple 10-second act. You could do it every day without too much effort or thought. Now, you may not immediately feel how it affects your approach to life, but when you make it a habit with regular practice, its deeper meaning seeps into your way of daily living. And then you start to feel and live a bit like a Stoic. And then you stop carrying your agitation and discomfort of the negative events throughout your day. So, when something sabotages your smoothly planned day, you feel disappointed, but you don't let it hang over you like some cloud of sadness. Like, for example, let's say your laptop drive failed. Alright, it failed. It is inconvenient currently, but getting angry at others and it does not fix it. So why would you waste your time and mental resources on it? A far better way is to see it as it is. Like, feel the feelings that the emotion brings and just let it pass. And you can see your emotions as they are. Listen to what they tell you, learn from them, and then just let them go. Like, you can let your thoughts bring your emotions, but do not let them decide who you are. Like, accept them, feel them, and then go out to do what you must do to fix your problem. Now, the modern cognitive theory of emotions says our emotions arise mostly out of our thoughts and beliefs. So, with that being said, when we understand our upsetting emotions are brought on by our judgment of situations and people, we can remove them. This helps us gain control over how we feel about situations. Like a famous Stoic, Epictetus, once said, when someone speaks ill of you, you let yourself feel anger, but you do not accept it or act on it. You feel the dark emotions, realize that they have a purpose, and then release them. With that being said, for enough days, you change your attitude towards negative incidents. With that, you get to keep your mental stability when someone or life itself throws negativity at you. In time, you learn not to allow people and situations to dictate your thoughts and actions, and you get better at marking bold lines between outside events and your judgments about them. And you stop others from dictating what you think, how you act, and where you spend your time. Let me tell you the advice Emperor Marcus Aurelius gave himself on waking up. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and all of the above. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me, no one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. That's our first one. Our second one, keep death in mind. Now, this may seem weird, but the Stoics kept the inevitability of death in their mind in everything they did. The ancient Stoics were in a hurry to be honest and good at everything, as if it were the last thing they could do before death took them. So, keeping death in their thoughts makes everyone remember they cannot escape their deaths no matter how famous, wealthy, or powerful they are. So, you should live your life with humility and morality without acting out of hubris or taking advantage of others, and not procrastinate or postpone doing good things until tomorrow. With this, Marcus Aurelius, again, wrote to himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. And Seneca, which is another Stoic, wrote to Lucilius, something like that, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touch on their life each day is never short of time. Stoics believe our fear of death underlies all of our other fears. So, when we overcome this ultimate fear, we free ourselves from all worldly attachments and fears of losing them. To draw courage from a reminder of death, remind death himself. So basically, say it to death, whatever you want to do. Death, let me remind you that you can take everything from me, but not my virtues for the days I have left. Number 3, you want to eat as a Stoic would. So, the Stoics' practice was to eat properly. They followed Socrates, I don't know how to really pronounce it, idea of eating to live, not living to eat. Musonius Rufus, who was born a long time ago, one of the 4 great Stoic philosophers of the Roman Empire, and the man who taught Epictetus, held that controlling one's appetite is at the foundation of self-control. Rufus taught his followers that they should prefer foods that are modestly priced, easy to come by, and healthy to eat. His idea was to not spend too much time either shopping for or making food. So Rufus asked them to avoid eating slaughtered animals and instead sustain on grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, honey, cheese, and the like. He also advised against overeating and eating mindlessly or hurriedly. He frequently reminded the Stoics to eat in moderation with self-control and with mindfulness. So, the person who eats more than he should makes a mistake. So does the person who eats in a hurry. The person who is enthralled by gourmet food, the person who favors sweeter and nutritious foods, and the person who does not share his food equally with his fellow diners. That ain't good. Once people develop a taste for fancy foods, they get triggered to crave expensive, uncommon, and hard to get foods, and then they lose their ability to enjoy simple foods. Even Marcus Aurelius, the powerful Roman emperor and the last great Stoic of antiquity, seemed to eat sparsely. In one of his letters, he wrote, "Then we went to lunch, or luncheon." He said something like that. "What do you think I ate? A wee bit of bread, though I saw others devouring beans, onions, and herrings full of roe. We then worked hard at grape gathering and had a good sweat, and were merry and, as the poet says, still left some clusters hanging high as gleanings of the vintage, or village." So why not try fasting today? A modern way of fasting is intermittent fasting. In this, you keep a gap of 14 to 16 hours between the last meal of your day and the first meal of the next day. And it has some proven psychological and physiological benefits. Another thing you can do is when you eat your food today, make it a point to chew it for as long as possible. Note the taste of every bite as if you can taste each particle. That's like mindful eating. One last idea on the Stoic way of eating. Try sitting with the food you know is unhealthy for you. Just sit there for a long while. Don't eat it. Think about why you should not eat it and how it would harm you later, and trash it. However crazy this may seem, just drop it in the trash can. Simple as that. Number 4, work at your own worth. So do you fix your worth based on what others think of you? As a practicing Stoic, it doesn't matter if others admire, hate, or laugh at you. Even if they love you, they might not think as much about your goals and dreams as you do. And when they dislike you, of course, they would not care about your values and strength or character. They will never understand who you actually are. So why steer your life based on what their views are about you? Instead, why not work to raise your own worth? Why not turn to yourself and grind out excellent quality at whatever you do, rather than working to win their validation? You don't have to have a royal bounty as your target to pursue work that raises your worth. You can choose one little piece of work today and give it your best focus, skills, and dedication. What this would do is discipline you for a higher level of personal excellence. Just 90 minutes a day on a single task gets you 900 minutes of self-confidence and self-worth in a month. I don't know how to say it. Stoic principles warn that your material possessions, however high priced, will lose their shine and value after a while. Then you will start taking them for granted. They will be as good as forgotten. The same holds for people as well. Don't resent others for having what you do not own. Your time and your moral values are your real possessions. So, with that being said, trying to live in a life chasing the same things as they have is a slippery slope toward anxiety and misery. So you want to work to achieve your goals, but without seeking approval or applause from others. That is how children of narcissistic parents turn out, constantly fearful to and striving to please their parents at a great personal cost. So turn your focus on being as virtuous as you can with what you control, your thoughts and actions. Work on building your own worth using the tools you have to flourish, and let go of what is not helping your growth and get a better grip on what sharpens your skills. Seneca sagely advised, so he wrote this, or he, she, every night before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I practice? You do not need to judge yourself because someone else did so. You do not have to slot yourself into a certain category because everyone else has checked in there. Sit on your own and just fix your self-worth. And you always have the option to have no opinion about it. Sometimes you can say nothing at all. Number 5, write a journal to yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, was the most powerful Stoic to have ever walked this earth. He wrote a journal for guiding himself in life. He wrote it by his own hand, even when he was at the war front. But the strange thing was that he did not want the journal to live on after he died. It was clear that he wanted to destroy it at his death, since he wrote it only for himself as a personal diary. But it survived, and we are thankful it did, for we can now buy it as the book of meditations. Writing in a diary was a widespread daily Stoic habit. The Stoic way of journaling was to write in the morning about the things they wanted to do that day. Then, at night, they would come back and analyze their day, how it went against how they wanted it to go. So, the Stoics wrote to bring order to their thoughts, ideas, and memories. So, writing a personal journal helped them navigate better through their hard times. It reminded them to do things that were of virtue, correct their mistakes, learn how to respond to demanding situations, and examine their actions. Epictetus also journaled. He wrote, "These are the things, the distinction between what one can and cannot control, which philosophers should meditate on, which they should write daily, in which they should exercise themselves." So did Seneca. He wrote, or she wrote, "I examine my entire day and go back over what I've said and done, hiding nothing from myself and passing nothing by." So you want to keep that in mind. 6. Detach yourself and practice armor fati. Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius wrote on the Stoic idea of accepting one's destiny. Later, it came to be known as armor fati, a Latin phrase that translates into the love of one's fate or passionate acceptance of everything from the past in one's life. It was Nietzsche, the revolutionary philosopher who boldly uttered "God is dead," who gave the phrase to the world, "My formula for greatness in a human being is armor fati," that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it. All idealism is meant to see in the face of what is necessary. Beloved, my goodness, that's terrible. Armor fati is not about trying to erase anything from the past. Rather, it is about accepting the whole past wholeheartedly, the good and the bad, all the failures and the successes. Armor fati means doing the most that we can, putting in our best efforts to make the world a better place, without worrying about what results from our practices, and accepting the outcomes with gratitude and strength. When we worry, we mostly think of an unexpected outcome, or an expected one. We get anxious that the future might unfold in a way we do not imagine it to do. But can we really control these part of the results? Nope. As we embrace the Stoic philosophy of armor fati, we embrace our future and whatever it may be. But it does not mean to be nihilistic or pessimistic, doing nothing or expecting the worst, or the belief that nothing is going to be worthwhile. Armor fati means working towards what you mean to and intend to do without attaching yourself to the results. It is to accept the outcome, whatever it is, as you can only control the process, not what it throws up in the end. So don't demand that things happen as you wish. Rather, wish that they happen as they do happen. Then you'll be happy. That's what Epictetus said. The Stoics believed the entire cosmos was organized rationally, including the order of events in its entire time. Nature has preordained everything to happen the way they happen, fighting against a cosmic fate that can only cause, I don't really know. They said something about it, but it was something about hard work. Think of armor fatigue as readying an arrow on a bow. Aim at your target with your best technique and balance. Do not be worried about where the arrow may finally stop. Accept with serenity wherever the arrow ends up, that's armor fatigue, and continue to improve with each subsequent shot. Number 7. Read a passage from Stoic Classic. It is an easy yet powerful exercise to read a passage from a classic book by an ancient Stoic. You could read a few lines, if not a full passage, from Seneca, Epictetus, Musonius Rufus, or Marcus Aurelius. For busy beginners, Marcus Aurelius's immortal self-reflection journal, Meditations, is the go-to book. It's easy to read, understand, and keep in memory for the day. Marcus ascended the Roman throne at 40 years of age, with 20-odd years of philosophical training and practice behind him. He is rightly called the Philosopher King. Though he studied Cynicism, Epicureanism, Platonism, and ideas from other schools of philosophy, Marcus is held as a quintessential Stoic. Marcus Aurelius mostly wrote from the war front during his last decade on Earth, between 170 and 180 CE. Here are a few inspiring passages. Do external things distract you? Then make time for yourself to learn something worthwhile. Stop letting yourself be pulled in all directions, but make sure you guard against the other kind of confusion. People who labour all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse toward are wasting their time, even when they are at hard work. Another one. Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. The span we live is small. Small as the corner of the earth in which we live it. Small as the greatest renown passed from mouth to mouth by short-lived stick figures, ignorant alike of themselves and those long dead. A third one. People who are excited by posthumous fame forget that the people who remember them will soon die too, and those after them in turn, until their memory passes from one another like a candle gutters and goes out. Another one. Nothing happens to anyone that he can't endure. The same thing happens to other people, and they weather it unharmed, out of sheer obliviousness or because they want to display character. Is wisdom really so much weaker than ignorance and vanity? Another one. If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. What harms us is self-deceit and ignorance. Another one. To feel affection for people, even when they make mistakes, is uniquely human. You can do it, even if you simply recognize that they're human too. They are out of ignorance against their will, and that you'll both be dead before long. And above all, that they haven't really hurt you. They haven't diminished your ability to sense. Number 8. Do a good act today. Do a simple good act each day. It could be any small thing that can make another person benefit from it. The Stoics maintain that the only thing that contributes to happiness is virtue. They kept it clear and strong that doing good for its own sake was the highest virtue of human life. A Stoic does a good act because it was good to do. So, yeah. Living with that virtue was the way of a good life of a Stoic. In a sentence, a Stoic is a person who lives with virtue and is in agreement with nature. The 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism are wisdom, like knowing between the good and the bad, justice, morality, like fairness and impartiality, temperance, like moderation, self-control, self-awareness, and then courage, bravery, grit, and resilience. The Stoics believed their primary goal in life is to live in agreement with nature. By this, they meant living with that unique quality that makes us humans above all animals, our ability to reason. So doing a friendly act for another person today, like carry a meal to a homeless guy, write a thank you note to the office staff, or even take a break to watch a movie with your partner, while accepting no praise. Now comes the vital bit. If you get praised, accept it without the smallest bit of arrogance. But if you get told off or shooed away for doing any of it, treat their terrible behavior with indifference. Whenever or wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. So just be sure to be kind. Number 9. Take another person's perspective. A sage is a person with perfect wisdom, as the Stoics believed. The good thing is that the Stoics also held no one could ever be an ideal sage, as all humans are flawed by nature. So what they suggested was to take time to think deeply about what a Stoic sage would do in a particular situation and how they would carry themselves. So, with that being said, this was to find the perfect behavior pattern. Even when they are imperfect themselves and emulate it, this was to get over the biased logic of my way of doing things and do what the sage would do. When faced with a difficult issue, do not act until you have answered the question, what would Marcus do in this situation? It can be a quick guide to living a good life and making virtuous decisions. With this, you do the right thing, whether or not anyone is watching. Marcus Aurelius once said, when a man has done you wrong, immediately consider with what opinion about good or evil he has done wrong. For when you have seen this, you will pity him, and will neither wonder nor be angry. For either you yourself think the same thing to be good that he does, or another thing of the same kind. It is your duty then to pardon him. But if you do not think such things to be good or evil, you will more readily be well disposed to him who is in error. Yeah, that's a big one. Number 10. View from above. So the idea of the view from above appeared in many schools of thought, but featured mainly in Stoicism. In this, a Stoic imagines they are seeing things from high above, as if from the sky or a high mountain. It serves to remind us how tiny we are and how minuscule our problems are in the vastness of the cosmos. It changes our perspective from being narrowly focused on our anxieties to looking at our issues on a cosmological scale. Marcus Aurelius even mentioned it several times in his meditations. He said, you can rid yourself of many useless things among those that disturb you, for they lie entirely in your imagination, and you will then gain for yourself ample space by comprehending the whole universe in your mind, and by contemplating the eternity of time and observing the rapid change of every part of everything. How short is the time from birth to dissolution, and the illimitable time before birth, as well as the equally boundless time after dissolution. Number 11. Speak little and speak well. The Stoics favor remaining silent over speaking out whatever comes to mind. So when we listen to a person, we should only listen. We should not jump to offer them our opinion, point out their mistakes, or offer a simple or similar story from our lives. Our silence serves them better than our unasked for advice. People who were actively listened to, as researcher Harry Wager Jr. found, felt more understood than those who received advice or simple acknowledgements. Furthermore, those given active listening responses were more satisfied with their talk and thought the listener was more socially active. So don't talk too much, don't speak ill of others, don't speak about what you don't know. Instead, listen to others mindfully. Zeno says something that still carries wisdom. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Therefore, we should listen twice as much as we speak. I actually really like that one. And Ryan Holiday writes, the Stoics knew how damaging our words could be if we said the wrong thing too often. It's why Zeno, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all wrote about the importance of well thought out speech. Epictetus said this, be for the most part silent, or speak merely what is necessary, and in few words. We may, however, enter very sparingly into discourse sometimes when occasion calls for it, but not on any of the common subjects of gladiators, horse races, or athletic competitions, or feasts, the vulgar topics of conversation, but principally not of men, so as either to blame or praise or make comparisons. If you are able, then by your means conversation bring over that. If you are to be taken among strangers, be silent. And beware, don't speak less of others for having them celebrate their achievements. If you cannot applaud them freely, then you must also not wonder about how little of those things you have in your own life. Number 12. Acknowledge other people's virtues. People are basically good, so you want to believe it and live by it. Marcus Aurelius says of this: whenever you want to cheer yourself up, consider the good qualities of your companions. For example, the energy of one, the modesty of one, the generosity of yet another, and some other quality of another. For nothing cheers the heart as much as the images of excellence reflected in the character of our companions, all brought before us as fully as possible. Therefore, keep these images ready at hand. Number 13. Speak without judging. Our judgments attack the person we are speaking to, even if we do not use judgmental words in our conversation. Our tone, and non-verbal expressions reveal our intentions. Epictetus says of this: does anyone bathe in mighty little time? Don't say that he does it ill, but in a mighty little time. Does anyone drink a quantity of wine? Don't say that he does ill, but that he drinks a great quantity. For unless you perfectly understand the principle from which anyone acts, how should you know if he acts ill? Thus you will not run the hazard of assenting to any appearances but such as you fully comprehend. Number 14. Meditate on the cosmos in the morning. Marcus Aurelius said, the Pythagoreans say, look at the sky at dawn, to remind ourselves of the constancy of those heavenly bodies, their perpetual round of their own duty, their order, their purity, and their nakedness. No star wears a veil. So that's just a quick one. Number 15. Deal with mishaps as if they happen to others, not you. So, Epictetus says of this: the will of nature may be learned from those things in which we don't distinguish from each other. For example, when our neighbour's boy breaks a cup, or the like, we are presently ready to say, these things will happen. Be assured then that when your own cup likewise is broken, you out to be affected just as when another cup's broken. Apply this in like manner to greater things. Is a child or wife of another dead? There is no one who would not say, this is a human accident. But if anyone's own child happens to die, it is presently, alas, how wretched am I. But it should be remembered how we are affected in hearing the same thing concerning others. So basically, treat it like it doesn't happen to you. Number 16. Remind yourself of the impermanence of things. Epictetus has said, with regard to whatever objects give you delight, are useful, or are deeply loved, remember to tell yourself of what general nature they are. Beginning from the most insignificant things, if, for example, you are fond of a specific ceramic cup, remind yourself that it is only ceramic cups in general of which you are fond. Then, if it breaks, you will not be disturbed. If you kiss your child or your wife, say that you only kiss things which are human, and thus you will not be disturbed if either one of them dies. Number 17. Respond to insults with humour. Epictetus has once said, if anyone tells you that such a person speaks ill of you, don't make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, he does not know my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these. Apply virtue to every situation. I'm just going to throw in another exercise. This is the central axis of Stoicism. A Stoic is nothing if not a person of virtue. They live and die by the principle of virtue. The Stoics believe the things we get in life through integrity and virtue are only our true earnings. C.S. Lewis famously said, integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. That is the practice of Stoicism. The Stoics have always advised doing the right thing every time, even when there was no one to watch them over. Epictetus once said, with every accident, ask yourself what abilities you have for making a proper use of it. If you see an attractive person, you will find that self-restraint is the ability to have against your desire. If you are in pain, you will find fortitude. If you hear unpleasant language, you will find patience. And thus habituated, the appearances of things will not hurry you away along with them. So, back then, when a Stoic was preaching, a commoner passing by would stop for a few minutes and listen to a portion of their lecture before continuing with their business. Now, Stoicism doesn't need perfect knowledge of it to practice it. Anyone can observe Stoic wisdom while going about their day and still learn a lot. So, that being said, The Stoic way to happiness is a practical path for everybody in the modern world. A Stoic is not a person who is careless. A Stoic is just a person not ruled by their emotions. So, Stoicism can help you live with a certain inner peace in times filled with anxiety, worrying, and overthinking. It can help you keep in mind that what you control is your perspective on the events, not everybody else's perspective. Now, how do you apply Stoicism to everyday life? Stoicism is a practical philosophy that can be applied to everyday life. Some ways to embrace are to remember that death is inevitable and unpredictable. Another one is to never try to control anything apart from our actions, thoughts, and beliefs. To practice the view from above, like to realize how little we are in the grand scale of the universe. To not judge others, even if they judge us harshly, pardon me, and to practice voluntary discomfort. So, now, a simple step toward practicing Stoicism is to repeat a basic notion of Stoicism through speaking and writing, and to apply it in daily life. There is no way to get failure out of learning Stoic philosophy because Stoicism teaches that we should do our best but accept the outcome we are given. So, that's what I've got for you today. I hope this was helpful to you and you can start to become more grounded and controlling of your emotions. Make yourself 1% better every day, and I'll see you next time.